This video is brought to you by the Talent Transformation Guild, helping you stay relevant for the future of work, learning, and leadership.
So we know that an ounce of prevention is better than a cure. And in that situation, it feels like there was some dynamic going on there. But generally, what are the preventative mechanisms and situations that you can put in place from an organizational level, management level, or even employee level?
My belief is, and this is borne out, and it'll make sense to you because it's all about how do you create an environment of trust with your team. One thing that really bothers me in our some of the current business literature is there's a lot of talk about corporate culture. You want a culture of trust. There's a lot of talk about it, but how do you actually create it? And I'm one that believes we need practical solutions. And so my advice is that you start by creating a policy and procedure that you then enforce and incorporate into other HR practices, and that you make this a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but that policy and procedure when it comes to workplace bullying is different and distinct than those policies and procedures for harassment and discrimination. A few of the ways that it's different is that it includes an informal solution in addition to a formal solution. So there's a step in there where you can resolve it informally without going through a big complaint process. With formal documentation. So there's a way to do that, because sometimes whether or not it's an actual bullying situation needs to be sussed out. There's that aspect of it. You need to focus on the fact that this is employee health driven initiative, that you're trying to reduce stress in the workplace. And so you come at it from the stress reduction aspect, not because we're trying to ferret out all these bullies that are in our environment, right? So there's a way that you word it and the way that you put it in place. And then you want to make sure that you incorporate it into a couple of things. One is employee performance reviews, and you also want to have it included in your management training and also your orientation for new employees as to what the definitions of success are. So there's a few ways to ensure that it continues and continually reinforces your culture of psychological safety. There's also an aspect of it where you create an expert peers team so that you have people in different departments at different levels that are trained in identifying and understanding what these behaviors are and can informally talk to people who may be having issues.
Mm-hmm. So I can see the value of putting things in policies and procedures, and I see the value of having people at different levels being an expert that can either help counsel people and involve people, but often the person who is being bullied or the people that are witnessing the bullying don't feel empowered to raise this. How do you provide that psychological safety? And just to your point of culture is so important, I would agree with you. So often culture is defined at some senior level, but it isn't kind of reinforced on a regular basis. So you end up with these mini cultures of the different teams that are within the organization. And maybe one or more of those has a bullying kind of culture. Yeah. So how do you tease that out and address it?
No, there's no perfect solution. And you've really illustrated a lot of the problems that can be encountered in this situation. I'm not a Pollyanna. I know, and I've talked to a lot of people who understand that unless you've got buy-in from the top down, you're probably not going to have an ideal situation, but you can work within your department. And one of the best antidotes to a bullying culture, or maybe it's not even a bullying culture, maybe it's just where certain levels of disrespect are tolerated, is to make sure that your team doesn't tolerate it and make sure that you have each other's backs. So you can do it on a department by department basis if it's going to be impossible to correct it from the top down. You can also, you can engage a sympathetic senior manager, especially if you're encountering a particularly egregious case. And the way I would do it in that instance is to actually add up the costs to the corporation. Because we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's a free resource that I have for your listeners and viewers, which I'll give you how to connect to that later. But
yes.
It includes an online calculator that you can use to add up for you the different components of costs and then what that's costing your organization.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our newsletter and keep up to date with the new world of work, learning, and leadership.